perhaps there has been an appetite for people to want to understand and to truly play a part in closing the equity gap. But because they've misunderstood it, or perhaps they have put themselves out there and they haven't done it in the right way.
That first rejection.
First rejection, that first time they've been pulled up for not using the right language or not, best of intent, but it's fallen flat. They've taken that as now, why bother? I'm not even going to bother. I can't get that right.
Welcome to the Voices of Gender Equity, the podcast where we dive deep into the real and raw stories of impact. I'm your host, Henry Cooper, and each and every episode, I'm aiming to inspire and influence you, the listener, into action by bringing you authentic conversations, success stories, and practical advice. Join us as we amplify the voices of individuals from all walks of life, activists, scholars, CEOs, everyday champions sharing their journeys, their insights, and strategies for driving meaningful change. So whether you're a seasoned advocate or just beginning your journey on this fascinating topic, Voices of Gender Equity is your space to listen, learn, and engage. Welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the Voices of Gender Equity, the real and raw stories of impact. Claire Seeber is an internationally accredited career and leadership coach, speaker, and trainer who specializes in partnering with organizations to not only retain, but also develop and empower the next generation and emerging talent. She also works closely with individuals who are driven and determined to rise to the top of their game and be the kind of leader that all organizations want to hire. She is also the author of a new book called Less Hustle, More Happy, which is a practical, relatable, and relevant book built on the 5-part career framework designed to help people get back to what it means to be a human being, not just a human doing. So it's really, really great to have Claire here. It's so great to have you here. Would you like to tell the audience a little bit even more about yourself?
Sure. Firstly, can I just say, this is a fabulous book. I feel very
We
fancy
are very privileged
here.
for this.
Yeah, this is much better than my home setup, Henry, I've got to say. So firstly, thank you for having me.
Not a problem.
A little bit about me, as the listeners now know, my name's Claire Seeber.
Yeah.
I run my own company. I'm what they would call a slashy, which is a newish term for people that do lots of things, multi-passionate
I like
individuals.
That. I'm gonna have to use that.
So one of my primary company is working with individuals and organisations globally.
Yeah.
A particular passion for supporting women in their careers, so career advancement strategies, leadership programs, workshops, do a lot of speaking. But then I'm also the co-founder of the Future Female Leaders organisation, which you are well aware of. CGE are sponsors of us. And that is a female co-founded, female-run, female-led, female-supporting organisation for our future generation of female leaders. And how do we equip individuals and organisations now with the talent and the skills that we need in order to thrive into our future?
Oh, I love that. It's like investing in that next generation, investing in that pipeline. And really making and ensuring that, when they are going through these things and going through these programs, on the other side, that things are already set up and equitable for them to be in those organizations and to take advantage of those opportunities.
Absolutely.
So I love that. Bravo to you.
Thanks.
I want to kick off. What is your definition of gender equity? What does it mean to you?
The way I think about it for myself is that gender equity is the stepping stone to gender equality.
Yeah.
And so I think that it is the acknowledgement of that in order to achieve an equal playing field where everyone truly has opportunities for the same things, to do the same things, to achieve the same things, to put their hands up for the same things. We have to step back and acknowledge that in order to get there, that means that there are certain people, certain demographics that need additional support.
Yeah.
And need additional help to get there. And I often think of, I'm sure you've seen it before, that illustration of, I think it's, 3 or 4 people standing behind a fence, looking out onto like a sports oval or something. And the illustration just showcases that. So if you were looking on the other side of the fence, they'd all look like they was the same height. But on the side of the fence that we can see in the illustration, they're standing on, someone's standing flat on the ground. Somebody else is standing on 1 box. Somebody else is standing on 2 boxes or 3 boxes. And I look at those boxes as the initiatives and the support structures and the action that we need to put in place in order to get to equality. So that's really how I think about things and how I try to explain it to other people as well.
And sometimes it's a little difficult to explain, especially for those that haven't really kind of experienced it in a way or seen it. And I always say, like, when you're working in gender equity, it really is the understanding of that everyone has different barriers. Everybody has different areas that they need to overcome in order to have that kind of equal starting point. So when you were talking about, taking a step back, I know a lot of people struggle with the action behind it. Like, we know the concept of, we know what it is, but it's the follow through of it. Like, have you faced any adversity around that? And what have you seen, and how did you kind of navigate that when speaking with people?
I see adversity in this space every day. Both adversity that I have experienced as a female in my own career, but then equally as much the work that I do inside organisations. I get women that come into my workshops and my programs, and you hear these stories and these things that they're navigating, and it's just like these facepalm moments of, is this seriously still happening? And it is. I think that a lot of it, one of the narratives in particular that I've noticed lately is around, like this fear that for more privileged people, that something's being taken from them by giving something to, like we've only got like a certain amount of pie to go around.
Like, this is mine, and I don't want anybody to take this from me. And so it's grounded in fear, essentially, and a lack of true understanding, and maybe a desire to want to, of which we've got to. That's why a multi-pronged approach, I think, is what's really important for organisations. But I'm really noticing that lately, like this fear, and it manifests differently. So for some people, it might manifest as, just sarcastic jokes around, we're going to why don't we have a men's program, or, they're only getting that promotion because they're a woman, or whatever it might be. Like it might sound different. It's still grounded in fear of, what are you taking from me? Whereas it's not about taking anything. It's about everyone just having access to the same way of living and being able to show up in the world. It's the decent human being stuff, right?
Yes,
that's essentially what it is. It's just trying to understand. It's to share the understanding. And I know exactly where you're coming from. It's having those conversations all the time. And with change always comes that kind of anxiety. And with that anxiety, it's just a lack of trust, and it's a lack of communication. So what you're saying, it's the education around it. If I don't know what it is, then therefore I don't want to associate with it, and it's evil, and it's coming after me. So it's that fight or flight kind of mentality.
That's exactly right. And so I'll either resist it, like outwardly, or I'll just ignore it and avoid it altogether. And that's the other thing I'm seeing a bit of too at the moment around, perhaps there has been an appetite for people to want to understand and to truly play a part in closing the equity gap.
Yeah.
But because they've misunderstood it, or perhaps they have put themselves out there and they haven't done it in the right way.
That first rejection.
First rejection, that first time they've been pulled up for not using the right language or not, best of intent, but it's fallen flat.
Yeah.
They've taken that as now, why bother? I'm not even going to bother. I can't get that right. And then they end up resisting further and avoiding. And now I'm seeing sometimes in organisations where there's, you're almost getting men sometimes who are too scared now to provide these opportunities or to have the conversations that they need to have or to say something because they're now so worried about saying the wrong thing.
Yeah. It's the fear because they're looking at it as if, if I get this wrong, it's going to be magnified. And do I want to sit in that heat when that spotlight is on me?
Yeah.
It's like, I'd rather not do anything. But, silence is complicit. So
That's right.
it's kind of the double-edged sword. It's what do you actually want to stand for? Do you want to be silent or do you want to say something?
Exactly right.
So it's those that are around you that need you to say something because if you are at that kind of level, it's your duty to do that. You're the leader, okay? Then that's leading.
Yeah. And by not doing something or saying something or playing your part, whose comfort are you really preserving? Because often the excuse is, I don't want to make people uncomfortable.
Who?
That's exactly right. Who? Is it actually your discomfort that you don't want to unsettle?
Yeah.
Or is it really the discomfort of the people around you? Because I guarantee you, as being someone in the room who's experienced some of the things we're talking about, make me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Please make me uncomfortable.
That's what the gold is. That's where it lies. Like the real work comes from the uncomfortable. So I think just having like the uncomfortable conversations, I think it's been kind of like a lost art. Just the concept of conversation because we're on our phones all the time. So and you're seeing so much on social media and taking up a lot of information from there that it becomes overwhelming. And then when it's overwhelming, what happens? I don't want to deal with it.
Too hard.
Like, I can't say that. I can't do that. But it's like, you got to diversify your circle, really.
Yes.
Getting the information that you want, you got to have your circle that can supply that information to you, right?
Get outside your echo chamber really intentionally and take accountability for your own need to understand.
Yeah.
And I think that sits at the core. Like I think of everything that we talk about when it comes to just equality in general.
Yeah.
It's like be accountable for your own privilege.
Yeah.
Be accountable for your own learning. Be accountable for the fact that no human being on earth, yourself included, will ever be able to actually experience what everyone is experiencing because it's just not how it works as human beings. Like my experience of life and your experience of life and the hardships we've had or the adversity that we've dealt with is different. And so if every human being decided I don't have anything to learn in this space, then nothing would ever change.
Yeah.
So it really does start with that self-leadership piece and being accountable and owning your part in this mess.
Yeah, exactly. I know for myself, I know I've told leaders this before in the past where I said, just being in this room or being in the positions that we're in, there's a privilege there. I have a privilege now that I have a platform and I feel like it's my duty as a person that's in this privilege to provide those kinds of opportunities for those that I know that don't get those kinds of opportunities. Yeah. So it's really legacy now. And I told them, for your legacy, like, what do you want to leave behind? You can't take any of this with you. So people don't remember what you have. They remember how you made them feel, so what do you want to leave? And I know I got that from, my mentors and the people that I looked up to. and I know that you're in this space, and you are very inspirational and you empower people. Like, where does that come from? Like, who are your inspirations, or who are your mentors that you have?
Yeah. I've actually been very fortunate in my career that I have had some great mentors. In fact, all of my strongest kind of leadership influences and career influences have actually all been men.
Yeah, I've heard that so much.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and I've had an interesting career thus far in that I was sort of born and grew up in WA.
Yeah.
Earlier parts of my career were in mining, in oil and gas. I've done FIFO,
wow.
years of donning the steel cap boots, and being, I think at the time the stat was like on my side anyway, was like 1 to 15 ratio of women to men.
Yeah.
I've experienced all of the things we've all heard 1,000 times up on site, and I've equally as much though had really great experiences, and had some really great mentors and supporters during that period who opened doors for me. Equally as much, I saw the terrible side of leadership too, and what not to do. But then as my career progressed, I moved over east, and I moved into sort of industries like e-commerce and retail, of which case we had about 1,500 employees for the organisation. I was the head of HR for there at the time, and the majority of our employees were women. And I was also really blessed there to have, and I say blessed, to have examples of terrible leadership.
Yeah.
Because
it
you
is
learn.
a blessing. You're learning.
You learn from that, and then really great mentors as well. That provided me with opportunities. And so I couldn't sit here and tell you a list of I mean, I probably could if I really thought about it, but in terms of specific behaviours that they did, it was really more the fact that they saw something in me that at the time I didn't see in myself. Yeah. But that alone is not enough. They actually opened doors and provided opportunities, and then gave me a loving nudge through the door.
Like, you can do it. Go ahead.
But then also, once I was through the door, they didn't just drop me either and say, well, there you are, all the best. They actually then still supported me and backed me and helped amplify my voice the whole way through. And so I think that's a really important point, is that when it comes to mentoring and sponsoring, like I get on my soapbox about this, Henry, that we over mentor women and we under sponsor them. Yeah. So it's great to have a mentor. It is critical in organisations, though, that we have sponsors. Sponsors are actually what we need more of if we really want to shift the dial on the leadership gap inside organisations. Yeah. But sponsorship is not just opening the door, ticking the box and saying, here, I opened it for you. It's about bringing somebody through the other side and then supporting them through as well. And I think that's where we still see a lot of examples where women are given these opportunities, like the glass cliff. Yeah. Right? Oh, well, we gave her an opportunity. Yeah, sure, we gave her an opportunity when everything was falling apart. She was not set up for success. Exactly. She had no support structure, and any person would have probably ended up with the same outcome. Yeah. But now we're really going to make a big deal about it because she was a female. Yeah. Right? And so I think...
It's like, see, we did what we said that we were going to... We gave her an opportunity. Yeah. See, it doesn't work. Sorry. There you go.
Yes.
We tried.
Exactly. And that's the narrative that plays out. And it's like, okay, so you did the one part. You opened the door. And then there was nothing on the other side. Yeah. She fell into the abyss. Yeah. So how do we make sure that the scaffolding is also in place consistently to support? And we aren't just looking for the first opportunity to say, see, I told you it wouldn't work. So I think that for me, I've had great role models, I've had great leaders, but what I've really had is sponsors.
Yeah. I like how, you put that, because it's very, very important. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to put your money where your mouth is. It's like what you invest in is what you care about, right? And you see people, especially people that have money, it's you buy certain things because that's what you value, whether it's because of your social circle or because of your personal likings or what you like, your preference. But it's you always buy things and you invest in things that you love and that you see value in.
Yeah.
That should be the same way for initiatives and programs that are like this.
Yes.
It's like, if you value it, then back it.
Yes.
And this is a long backing because this means something. And that's another legacy thing. It's You're showing people what your organization cares about or what you care about. So I'm very much on board with that.
And there is actually, and maybe you can pop this in the show notes, but just with the sponsor piece quickly, for anyone listening that doesn't know what that is and is curious to understand more, there is a fantastic TED Talk. Anyone listening who's been in my workshops or my programs would be like, oh, she talks about this all the time.
I know that one.
It's fabulous, by a woman called Carla Harris.
Oh, okay.
It's about an 18-minute TED Talk, and not only is Carla Harris an incredibly engaging speaker, but she talks about, who you need in an organisation to help you get ahead. So we'll pop that link in the show notes so people can have a listen and understand a little bit more about why it's so important to have a sponsor, and also why organisations should be thinking more about sponsorship. Not instead of mentoring, as well as ideally, but particularly sponsoring.
And then people that want to sponsor.
Yeah, so absolutely.
I think that's brilliant. And even with everything that you're doing, there's so much that you do, and just hearing this topic, especially with the sponsoring, I know that you have. Is that kind of like the basis? Or what you do, is that kind of like the basis of why you made your book? Like why you wanted to start the book?
Yes and no, in that the book is Less Hustle, More Happy. Is not just targeted at women. So Less Hustle, More Happy is a book initially written for entry to mid-career professionals.
Okay, that's important.
Who are looking to unlearn outdated conventional advice around how to have a sustainable career and learn more effective habits that help you have an impact as a leader inside your organizations. However, the more people who are reading it from all different parts of their career at all different stages and all different demographics. So far, the feedback has actually been this is a book for everyone, irrespective of where you're at, because it's giving you the space and grace to stop, reflect, and step back into sort of what you said before, Henry, around what impact do you want to have? And we get so busy being busy. We're like spinny tops.
It becomes normal.
Like,
you just get sucked into it.
You do. And I mean, you just have, and I talk about this a lot, you just have to walk the floors of most organisations and listen for 25 seconds or so and hear the conversations. And it's usually like, oh, hey, Joe, how you going? Oh, my God, I'm so busy. How about you? Oh, my God, I'm so busy too. I've been working every night this week. I'm going to be working the weekend. I'm just so busy. And, we, I'm not questioning that we are not busy. What I am questioning is, are we busy with the right things? Are we busy with the needle shifting things? Are we busy with the priorities of our organisations? And do we understand, even for ourselves, the impact that we have on other people when it comes to achieving not only outcomes for our organisations, but actually just the human element?
Yeah.
And the other, metric or stat that I like to share is, if we are lucky enough, and I think this is relevant for not even just specifically gender equity, but just for us, again, as human beings in general, if we are lucky to live to the global age of 70, that means we get 25,550 days on Earth. And for many of us, we will work in some capacity for nearly 2/3 of that time.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we want to be showing up in a way that we can feel proud of, that our children can feel proud of, and that the people that we work with can feel like we actually care about them as a human being. And so that for me, like, I think that is relevant to everybody, but to tie it back to gender equity specifically, it's again around how do I like check myself before I wreck myself before I keep pointing the finger at everybody else. You know, if they just did their job better, my life would be easier. Or if this person just did more of this, then I would be able to do this.
That's the easier way out. You know? It's without the work, like to blame everybody else for it. And I always find that with that, it's people that are in organizations, it's almost like you're in a simulation. Like what you were saying about if you walk the floors and you hear those conversations, it's almost like everybody's on autopilot.
Yes.
And what I find is that, you know, a lot of people are actually living the lives for other people. You know, like they're not really in the career or the job that they solely wanted. It might have been some external, you know, talk from them or suggestions or nudges. Oh, you should do this. Oh, you're really good at that, so you should do this. And I've always subscribed to the facilitate, don't dictate. I want to facilitate who you're going to become. I don't want to tell you who you are and what you're going to do. That's for you to find out. And life isn't linear, and there's going to be all these different branches. Just go in the direction that you see fit. Like, what inspires you? What are you passionate about? A lot of people don't know what their passions are.
No.
Which is I feel like I'm living in my purpose, so I don't feel like I'm working every day. And like, do you feel like you're in purpose right now?
Definitely. But what I would say, like and I got on my soapbox about this a few weeks ago on LinkedIn too. There is a saying, which I'm sure you've heard before, around do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. BS, Henry, BS. I do work that I love, and I still work damn hard. But I think there is this piece around where we find, particularly inside organisations, that people burn out, become resentful, and then particularly don't show up in an effective or a constructive way, is often when they feel like their efforts don't count. They don't feel seen, heard, or valued. They feel like they are not able to leverage their expertise in any kind of way, or they don't know what their true expertise is or how. So skills, passions, experiences, strengths, all of those kinds of things. And to your point before, they've often not actually thought about what is it that I'm here to do? What is it that, and not just a task list, but actually, like, how do I want to make people feel? What impact do I want to have? And that intrinsic motivation that comes with that. And so I think that, you know, an unsatisfied human usually equals a dissatisfied and disengaged employee. And I think we need to find ways to get back to that human-centered approach to leading and treating people, whether it is specifically around gender equity or whether it is specifically just around human to human, heart to heart. Beyond paying my mortgage and my bills, like what impact do I want to have?
So what's the purpose of why are you doing what you're doing? And if you don't see a clear picture, if you don't know why you're working and doing this, then it becomes tiring. It becomes, I don't want to get up out of bed. The alarm's going off. I don't feel like getting up. That's what happens. And it's like, okay, you know, do you want to keep feeling like this?
That's right.
Like, and the steps too.
The important piece in here too, to acknowledge, is that we aren't saying that purpose has to be your career or your job, right? You and I are both privileged to be in positions where
we found it.
We've found it and we've been able to combine it and clearly see it. But that is actually not the goal.
No.
The goal is just to work out for you as the individual, what is it that lights me up? And bring that. And maybe that is the work you do, but also maybe it's not. Maybe it's something outside of work that's the thing that you are super passionate about, a social cause or volunteering or sports or family, anything. But find that out, because once you find that out, you're able to bring a more energized version of yourself into the other parts of your life too. And then everybody benefits from that because we start to treat each other better.
Yeah. 100%.
You feel me?
100%. And where do you kind of see, gender equity going in the future?
I hope forward.
Yeah, that's the hope.
I'm seeing progress. I mean, we still got a long way to go.
Yeah.
But I feel happy that I believe we are seeing progress, and I do believe that will continue. I think there will be a continued conversation around the importance of flexibility. And, I wonder if the listeners can hear the thousands of fire trucks outside. It's all happening, people. It's all happening here.
It's a great talk. They already know.
So I think conversations around the part that true flexibility plays in achieving this outcome will continue. And I think we're seeing a reshaping of the way we work globally at the moment, which will support gender equity. And I think flexibility, I still believe the conversation around flexibility personally is still tilted too much towards women only. Whereas I have a view that how can we help men to also help women to be able to achieve our aspirations and our ambitions. And so that actually means looking at flexibility as a lever and a driver for everyone, so that we can do things like close the leadership gap, so that we can close the pay gap, so that we can do all of those things. So I do see those conversations continuing in particular. What's your take on that?
I totally agree. Like in the next 10 years, I feel like it's going to be more going into the reshaping of what DEI is. And I feel like equity is going to play a big part in the reshaping of that. And it's really going to be that centered approach of, this isn't a your problem, or, oh, you figure it out, or I'm going to stand on this side and let you do what you need to do. This is an us issue. It's an us problem that we need to come together and actually change and progress. So I see the kind of like reshaping of what DEI means for organizations. I see that some aren't doing it the right way. So even over in the US, they're just like, oh, we're going to scrap it. It's like, well, you haven't really built it the right way, and you haven't really invested in it the right way. And you just left it to people to do. And you're like, well, the culture in the organization is still crap. So of course that's not going to work. And if
ain't
people
no cupcake going to fix that.
Exactly. I'm like, you could put all the pretty things that you want on the wall. Like, it's still not going to change the foundation of what the organization is built on. So I'm like, I think it's going to be a kind of reshaping of that.
And I think add to that too, we've already got 5 generations in the workforce at the moment with different values, beliefs, worldviews, experiences, ways of doing things. And even if I think about some of the young female leaders in our Future Female Leaders program, these are girls in year 11 at the moment, a lot of the conversations that organisations are having around, how we treat it, a lot of the things we've just been talking about, how we treat each other, and that women are still not given these kinds of opportunities. This next generation are just not standing for that. No. In that they are not, they're like, why are we talking about this? Like in that, it's not that they don't believe that it's important, but they're like why is this conversation still happening? And so I think that they're about to hit the workforce in droves. And so there's going to be an even bigger conversation that's going to continue as they hit the workforce around, it's lovely that you call this an initiative, but why is it even an initiative? Why is it just not part and parcel of the way we operate?
Why isn't this the norm?
Yeah.
Why do you have to be prompted to do this?
And I'm here for that. I'm getting my popcorn out. And I love it because I learn, and this is what I say all the time to organizations that are like, you know, what's the benefit of getting involved and investing? And I'm like, because you, apart from the obvious benefits of filling your future talent pipeline, you learn so much from them as well. And there's been a few times this year even where I've said something that is probably just been burned in my brain for years, right? My own biases. And I'll say something and they'll be like, what do you mean by that? What does that mean? And I'll be like, and it's brilliant because they're challenged, and they're not meaning it even in a judgy way. They're just actually asking, like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Why do we do that? Why does that happen? And you're like, I do not have a good answer for you. And so I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Hey, what's next for you? What is on your radar? Let's say for, you know, in the next 5 years, what's next?
The next 5 years for me, I think continuing to have the conversations that I'm having is really important to me. In terms of my company, speaking is becoming a far bigger focus, and not just to women, but to everyone around how do we show up as leaders that truly can have an impact and still get results for our organisations. It isn't either or. Yeah. And I often get this question around because one of my arms of my business, as you've heard, is eating your cake too. And people are like, oh, do you sell baked goods? And I'm like, no. My waistline thanks me for that. But to me, eating your cake too is exactly that. Yeah. You actually can have your cake and eat it too. And it isn't about, which is often misunderstood, it isn't about being all the things to all the people all the time and doing all of the things and doing, because you can't. It's not achievable. No. But if we really check in with what is important to me, to my team, to society. Yeah. What are the things that I can focus on and do those well? Yeah. And to me, that is around this idea of leading ourselves more effectively so that organisations can achieve purpose. Yeah. They can also still achieve profit. It doesn't need to be an either or approach. It can be both. Yeah. So that's becoming a really big focus for me. And our Future Female Leaders organisation is also expanding, which is great. We do rely incredibly heavily on funding from visionary organisations. So that's also, I'll be really honest, Henry, and say that's something that stresses me out a little every year because we see so much value in it. The organisations that are involved are great, incredible partners. Yeah. But there's an element of you sometimes that feels like you're kind of begging for people to see why this is important. And so that tells me we've still got a long way to go.
It's like you're begging for your supper?
Kind of. Like, is it, please sir, may I have some more? Like, it does feel, Oliver? It's Oliver Twist? Yeah. Please sir, may I have some more? It does feel a bit like that sometimes, which when we talk about advocacy and those setbacks and adversity and stuff, like that's definitely one that we face, is like, how do you continue to get people to see the importance of that? But certainly for us as an organisation over the next few years, we're expanding. We've got the alumni now, so we've got industry insiders, women in industry positions that want to learn from each other, build community, mentor our next generation, provide sort of direct talent pathways, and that's really cool. Yeah. So for me, it's a real focus on impact. My values are enthusiasm, if you couldn't tell. Yeah, of course. Enthusiasm, impact, and contribution. And so how can I make sure that I'm contributing the best parts of myself to have the best impact and in a way that feels good too?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Just before we head off, how can people reach you? You know, like, is it through socials? Is it through LinkedIn?
Yeah. Look, I love to hang on LinkedIn. Yeah. I got an email yesterday, a message from one of the people at LinkedIn saying, congratulations, Claire, you've been given a top voice badge. And I said, oh, that's lovely. What do I do with that?
Like,
do I put it on?
Where do I bring this?
What does one do with this?
Do I get perks?
So,
what happens?
Where's the fine print? So I hang out a bit on LinkedIn. So look me up at Claire Seeber on LinkedIn, or check out my website, which is claireseeber.com.au. Or if you are interested in learning more about Future Female Leaders, check us out at futurefemaleleaders.com.au. For WA, by WA, closing the gender equity gap in WA.
No, brilliant. Thank you so much for being here. I know that I can talk to you for like hours. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could ask that. But we will definitely be doing this again because we got to keep the conversation going.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, that concludes another episode of Voices in Gender Equity, the real and raw stories of impact. I hope this conversation has sparked a passion, revealed new insights, and inspired you to take action into the pursuit of gender equity. Remember, change begins with each one of us. So until next time, keep raising your voice, keep championing equity, and keep making a difference. This is Henry Cooper, signing off from Voices of Gender Equity, the real and raw stories of impact.